Okay, so this is going to be a brief video today on David Fincher's Seven from 1995. Yeah, beyond iconic film at this point, obviously. I first saw Seven 10 years ago, ish. It was 2012 when I first watched it. That was the year, and I don't think I've watched it since that year. And so I watched it again yesterday night, and well, here are my thoughts on it. Here are my thoughts on it initially. At one time, I was interested in exploring the work of one David Fincher because he was an acclaimed director, and so naturally, and Seven was one of the most acclaimed films of all time in 2012. You could argue it still is, but at this time there was a lot of weight to David Fincher's work, and especially to acclaimed films of the 1990s were... The 90s was treated as a kind of Arcadia. I don't know if it's like a... There may be multiple reasons for that that are vaguely controversial, so I'd actually prefer not to get into that. But I think a lot of people my age or a little bit older, millennial generation, or my generation, I'm 96, I'm not sure what I am. There's a certain adoration of 90s films, which Seven seemed to fall into, this kind of like pre-21st century, pre-cyberspace era. How brilliant was that? And yeah, look, I thought Seven was pretty great. It was neat. It was a bit obvious, but by obvious I mean, kind of like tacky. It's just like, what's the profundity of Seven? Exactly. What's the creative, technical imagination of Seven? Is it mind blowing, or is it just like, oh, this is like extremely, extremely competent? It's the latter more so. I mean, it's an impressive film. It's an evocative film aesthetically. I won't deny any of that. But is it the most original vision we've ever seen of a neo-noir kind of ugly crime universe? I don't know. And so I watched Seven in 2022, and yeah, what a terrific piece of evocative film direction. Sound design's fantastic. I think the cinematography's strong, the editing's strong, the performances are very strong. I take for granted that Freeman and Pitt have very realistic, brilliant, considered chemistry. It's very, very good. Normally it's you expect it to be one of these things that's like, oh, good acting, bro, but it actually is good acting. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. Kevin Spacey's performance, I'm not a big Kevin Spacey fan, even prior to us knowing what Kevin Spacey's kind of, that thing. But, like, I don't know, I hate American Beauty, and but that's all you need, right? Like, I hate American Beauty, so I just find Kevin Spacey kind of just insufferable, fake good actor as a result. And, like, he does a relatively fine job in Seven. I think that performance is replaceable in a way that I don't think Morgan Freeman's necessarily replaceable. Maybe there'd be 4 actors who could replace Morgan Freeman's role. There's maybe 5 who could do, at that time, at that age, maybe 2 or 3 others who could have done what Brad Pitt did in that film. And it is important to cast a heartthrob type like Brad Pitt in that role to make it a more effective and more kind of shocking. But my thing with Seven is this. I mean, let's be frank, this is a really, really, really tacky screenplay. The dialogue's relatively good. I think that's what confuses people, but I mean, come on, if this wasn't a feature film and you were given this screenplay, you would think this is absolute freaking trash. Come on, like, his modus operandi is the 7 deadly sins, and then it turns out he's got this huge plan, and it's just, this is not a realistic psychological profile. This isn't even Hannibal Lecter. And this is the kind of film that's downstream of Silence of the Lambs having a critically acclaimed screenplay, and let's be honest, a really, really good screenplay in The Silence of the Lambs. And based off of I guess what's generally agreed to be a competent novel, where Seven is a completely original screenplay, because like, of course it is. Like, these serial killer screenplays can be so tacky. There's a reason why. Do you remember Donald Kaufman, Charlie Kaufman's brother in Spike Jonze's adaptation? He's writing the most tacky, like, fake good screenplay about, like, cop hunting a serial killer, but he's the serial killer. Like, all these terrible screenplays of serial killer. Like, for some reason, this is considered very classy in the screenwriting world. This is not the case in literature, for example. Serial killer psychological profiles are not considered the most interesting thing to do in literature, and I'm not counting American Psycho because that's just beyond trash. But yeah, the script for Seven, it's a kind of thing that it's like was this screenwriter inspired by one of these terrible like courses that tell you how to write like the method of writing screenplays that it's just like, you know, there's no art to it, it's just all shooting, there's no wanting, there's no love, there's just shoulds and fears when you write a screenplay, when you compose art. That's what Seven's screenplay comes across as, just very bullshit, tacky, functional garbage. But the dialogue's good, and in directing it, David Fincher did a fantastic job at smoothing over the kind of banal idiocy of the storytelling within this film. You know, this you know, he conjures a really ugly, hyper real just this I don't know, they really make that city hell, that brilliantly unnamed city, by the way, which is, I mean, Seven's greatest attribute in a sense is bringing to life this world. It's like you went to this city and it's like this alternate dimension. Perhaps I should share my thoughts on David Fincher in general at this point, because I might as well. There's 4 David Fincher films I'm on board with. The rest of them, honestly, I'm not that keen on. I think he's a decent technical film director, but I don't know what it is, but like with Seven in a sense, the screenplays that are thrown at Fincher are just terrible. Okay, so Seven's cool. I think to a degree, or I think its source material is beyond horrendous. I think Fight Club works. I'm not the biggest fanatic about it. I think the film does work. I dare say I'd call myself a fan in the way I am a fan of Seven. Like, there's enough there for me to admire. But in Fight Club, I do admire the screenplay more than I admire Seven's. It's just, holy hell, do I think Chuck Palahniuk is talentless. That's just my thing. David Fincher is not talentless, as it were. It's just, but, you know, and here's the other thing. I love at least the assembly cut of Alien 3. It's brilliant, and people who are shitting on Alien 3 were basically wrong, in my opinion. It's a beautiful trilogy. The real shitter was the next one, Resurrection. That's where it really went down the toilet, in my opinion. And Jesus Christ. But think about it. In the middle of like free quality films in the 90s, you have The Game, which is just, I mean, that film's embarrassing. And then what did he do in 2002? Panic Room. Embarrassing. What else has he got? Benjamin Button. That's kind of embarrassing. Gone Girl. That's kind of embarrassing. Oh my god. Zodiac's the other one that's really great. Zodiac is his best film. Zodiac is brilliant. Zodiac's very fucking good, actually. And then, we all know that now. And then we've got, what was it? Oh, Dragon Tattoo. Dragon Tattoo's okay. It's better than I saw the Swedish original, which was kind of just fairly straightforward and just adapted the novel very plainly, whereas the Fincher film was very stylized. The Fincher film's okay. I actually saw that at the cinema when it came out. Yeah, God almighty, that's a long time ago. That's literally over 10 years ago now. Yeah, interesting times. That's my thoughts on David Fincher, essentially. I'm not going to watch Mank. I'm a Orson Welles devotee, and I don't believe this Herman Mankiewicz fucking extortion claim garbage that people validate, and I just think that's wrong. Fuck Mank. That's not okay. And it has bad cinematography. It has very bad cinematography, and anyone who thought it had good cinematography is wrong. The other David Fincher film I forgot about, and this is kind of why I decided, in a way, I do hate David Fincher. I do think he's an irresponsible piece of shit. This film isn't even technically good. Not that all of them are, like, there's no technical merits to Panic Room, for example. Panic Room is just beyond embarrassing for everyone involved at all. But The Social Network See, here's the thing. When you claim to be doing like a kind of a critical, morally grey biopic of an individual claiming their historical figure, but we're gonna look at the man behind the cult of personality. You know, we're gonna behind the throne, behind the curtain. Who is Mark Zuckerberg? And here's the thing: when you do that to an individual, you're inherently glorifying them. You're saying, oh, he's a complex historical figure. No, he's a prick. Beginning and end. The Social Network was acclaimed at the time. Now everyone's embarrassed by it. It's one of the worst films that has been made ever. And that's... but I don't care about... It's not one of the most technically inept films ever made. I know that. But it's one of the most evil, narcissistic, misguided, irresponsible, and ethically bankrupt films I've ever seen in my life. This is the equivalent... Do you remember when everyone was giving shit to the film that was glorifying the owner of FIFA, portrayed by Tim Roth? Rightfully so. I haven't seen that film. I don't know anything about... I don't really follow FIFA, so I don't know about this dude that much in particular. I know he's apparently a piece of scum, but the reaction to The Social Network should have been similar to that, in my opinion. That FIFA film that came out several years afterward. So that was my review of David Fincher's 1995 film Seven, which spent half of the time not even discussing that film in question. Leave your hate in the comments below.